Welcome to She Sells Radio. My guest today, Johanna White, is backed by extremely popular demand. And if you have not yet listened to episode 134, go do yourself a favor and right after you listen to this, listen to that episode, which is about the power of belief. And Joe came on and talked about how she literally overcame a brain tumor with belief and with mindset. And she has such a powerful backstory that we dive into there. And it was one of, I think, the most inspiring interviews. I cried probably more than I ever had in an interview before. And it was so powerful. But we ended up talking so much in that interview about the power of belief and about mindset, which are things that I'm obsessed with and could talk about forever. And our original intention had actually been to talk about branding, because that's what Joe does professionally. And she's the founder of Design by Joe Studio. And for over 10 years has been working with individuals, startups, Fortune 200 brands to help them really build incredibly attractive brands and attract ideal clients, which, as all of us know in the sales world, is really, really, really important. And so today we're going to dive into all things branding. We're going to dive into all things marketing. And Joe is just such a wealth of information. And this is one of your true zones of genius, I know. So welcome back to She Sells Radio, Johanna. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks, Elise. I'm so glad to be here. And I pinky swear to today, give your viewers and listeners the experience we promised them last time, which is loads of information on branding for high dollar sales, which I think will be something your audience can really benefit from. And
Yes.
if I start to meander off into like how I learned from a brain tumor, just yank me back in.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't think anyone was upset last time. I had so many listeners DMing me like, oh my gosh, that was the most powerful story. So truly, if you are listening to this now and you have not listened to that episode, go back after you finish listening to this one and listen to that one, because it's so inspiring. But I'm so eager to dive into all things branding with you. And it's an area of my business that I didn't focus on for a really long time because I was so focused on like the actual sales process, but it is a game changer. And I love too how you focus on like branding specifically for high dollar sales, which a lot of our listeners, that's what they're doing. So here's what I want to hear from you is first, like one of the key points that you make is if you want to attract the best, you need to look like the best, which as a woman who loves aesthetics, who loves visual identity, I'm like, yes, I'm here for it. I hope we talk all things aesthetics here, but I want to talk about like, how do we do that? How do we start to look like the best and look like that perfect match for those high dollar, high value clients that we want to work with?
Well, that's a great question. And let's start with a story to answer that question, because those are easy to remember. So a lot of my clients, when they come to me, I like to call them at that time best kept business secrets. They have an amazing product or an amazing service, a lot more service businesses I work with than product, but it's freaking amazing. Nobody knows about it. And when I try to describe to people what this looks like, I remember this trip I took to Traverse City, Michigan, with my husband one time. We were going just for like a weekend getaway. And while we were in Traverse City in the main part of town, we decided to go out for sushi. And there was this place, it was at the top of the ratings on Yelp. And it had all the earmarks, all the signs of like, we have to eat here. There was a really long wait. There was literally a line out the street of people just waiting to get on the wait list. They had beautiful branding, like beautiful signage. The host outside had some menus that you could look at. They were leather bound. They were very luxurious feeling. So we get a reservation for the next night. We go in and eat there. The experience matches the branding as far as like the ambiance inside is phenomenal. To be honest, the sushi was just average.
Mm,
It wasn't even that amazing. But when
yeah.
we get presented with a bill for like $300 for two people, we weren't shocked at all
Mm,
because we had been anticipating that based on the branding and the experience and the look. And we were happy with our experience. We were not, upset at all. That was, we paid a high price for something that was positioned and looked like it was going to be a high price. Everybody was happy.
yeah.
On our way home from that trip, a couple days later, like 15 minutes outside of town, we decided to stop for lunch before we really got on the road. And we saw this building and it said sushi. And we're like, well, we still love sushi, but it's like this old repainted Pizza Hut building, I think, green and black stripes. It's really hideous. It has no signage whatsoever. We can't even tell if it's really open. We go and the door's locked, but it says open. We call them and they're like, oh yeah, we're open. Come on in. They let us in. Torn booths, dirty menus, like hole in the wall type
Wow.
of place. And we order sushi and it's like $6 a roll. And we're like, okay, I'm kind of expecting food poisoning
You're like,
here.
yeah, this is not going to end well.
This sushi, this chef back there, he's taking his time making it. We're starting to get better feeling like he's kind of a sushi artist back here,
Mm,
taking his time. The sushi comes out and it's on these cute wooden boats laid out beautifully. We dive in and it's the best sushi I've ever had in my freaking life.
wow. Mm,
Best sushi. But this place is like this chef barely getting paid. He clearly loves what he does, but he is stuck undercharging because no one knows about it. There's no customers waiting. We were the only people there, 15 minutes away from this place that has like a 2-day wait.
wow.
If he had even decent branding, let alone branding that really captured like how delicious this food was, he could have a line out the door and well deserved. Like his food was so much better. But because he didn't have branding, he didn't look like it was going to be experienced. People drive right on by, or they don't even see the building. Like there wasn't even I'm here kind of branding, let alone I'm here and I'm amazing. And
Wow.
so he, though really talented at his craft, is probably going to go out of business if he hasn't already, because he doesn't look like as good as he is.
Mm, gosh.
Not even
What a great-
close.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not just a shame for him, it's a shame for the world. Cause this is, I love sushi. I have it all over the place. The best sushi I've ever had. And no one knows. And so that is why when I tell my clients, like, to attract the best, you need to look like the best. That's just kind of entry level
Right.
example of what it looks like. And when you don't, maybe there's, there's different levels of branding and he had none. He
Mm,
could have at least started with some before he goes to luxury, but his product was so amazing that if he had branding that looked anything like the downtown establishment, he would have been more popular by far,
yeah.
taken market share and had clients from all over. But
Yes.
he didn't. So he remained invisible and a best kept business secret. Now this one downtown, their product was, it was okay. It wasn't even amazing, but because they looked like they were going to be the best, they looked like such a luxury premium spot. Like people keep coming, they leave good reviews. They're not disappointed because they're having an experience, not just food.
Right. Exactly. So it's, I love, no, I love the example. And I feel like it's like, oh my gosh, just so many light bulbs going off while you talk about that. And one of the things I want to ask, like, as follow up to that is, so if let's say that somebody is selling most of their stuff online, right? So they're in the online space and they are a luxury brand or they're selling high ticket items. What are some of those like quintessential, you should be doing this in your brand if you're going to look like the best and you're selling that high ticket item? Like, what should we be thinking about?
Well, so the human brain is both complex and then in other areas more ridiculously simple than you would think when it comes to that type of thing. So I'm going to go a little bit, not trite, but like, if you want to look like the best, something that you could do is, I do a lot of research for my clients. You can do research on your own. Look at competitors, look at your industry, look outside of your industry, and find imagery that represents luxury already in the mind of your consumers, because brands are about driving emotion and perception. And a lot of people think that, oh, if I just have a great logo and I have a website that at least has me on it somewhere, I'm branded.
I never had a website like that.
You are just, you have like a drop of a brand.
Yeah.
But
if even that.
if even that, but in reality, what you want is brand positioning. You want your name, your concept, your service, it positioned quite literally in the mind of your consumers next to something that they already perceive as high value. So, for example, I'm going to start with a product example because it's a little bit easier to describe in pictures, but then we'll move to some online like service industry examples. But let's take a picture in a magazine. You pick up GQ or you pick up Elle or you pick up any of those, and there will be a perfume ad or a purse. And this purse will be somewhere in the photo of the ad, but also in that photo will be a horse and an old steamer trunk and a beach and a really elegant ball gown. And like,
I literally have not like stopped to actually think about this and what's going on in these photos, because it's all subliminal, right? But you literally look at it and you're like, oh, of course that's worth,
of course it's luxury,
$2,000 or whatever.
There's a horse next to it.
Of course. Because there's always a horse next to a purse. Right? Okay. This is making a ton of sense. Yeah.
So, the first thing that I would say is, how is your brand positioned? Are there elements, imagery, words that you use that are already making your, like, already familiar luxury ideas in the minds of your consumers, or no? So my business, for example, before I learned and implemented this, I was a commodity of a graphic designer, charging the same or less than every other designer that I knew of, and still frequently getting told I was too expensive. After I figured this out and implemented it, I raised my rates by 800%. And actually, I think this year more. We won't say.
Yeah. Good for you. I'm all about this. I always, always, always want people making more money who offer good services like you. Yes.
I love that about you. So I raised my rate by 800% and still closed 20% more sales.
It makes immediately such a difference. Yes. Okay. Keep going. I get excited. I feel like I'm in like branding and marketing church.
So that's like the concept of brand positioning. I took very literally. If you look at my website, Designed by Joe Studio, you will see dripping gold. You will see crazy, ridiculous acrylic custom nails with like diamonds on them. You'll see an Hermes bracelet. You'll see Louboutin heels. Like I went, what known products do my ideal clients already perceive as luxury? I am going to quite literally place myself, and in this case, my business card, right next to them.
Interesting. Gosh, I'm thinking about your website now too, because as soon as I saw it, it was like, gosh, that's gorgeous. And it looks high end and it's all making sense. It's all making sense.
So that is not to make light of the industry, but that is brand positioning in its most literal, simple form. You think of a service like an interior designer, and the ones that you would look at their website and perceive as luxury premium would have pictures of staged houses where they used like gold edged mirrors, glass tabletops, or maybe like Edison lights or whatever is, really trendy and high end right now in the housing world. They would have those either staged or renderings of those in their photos, the artwork on the wall, the plants, even like how they set it, is because gold and glass and reflective surfaces and a lot of extra space are things as perceived to be luxury. So they're positioning their service, interior design, with a luxury look and feel. And so let's go with coaching, because you have a lot of coaches in your audience. You might still do the same kind of things that I do. Like, I focus for my clients, not just on their business brand, but also on their personal brand, which, being part of brand builders, you probably know just as much about personal branding as I do, but I'm heavy on the implementation side. And taking my clients, styling them, doing their personal branding photo shoots in a way that the staging items that show up in those photos, the locations, the clothing that they're wearing, maybe a statement piece of jewelry or a particular kind of shoes, both really tells you something about who they are as a brand, but also positions them in that premium space.
Yeah. Gosh,
and
go ahead.
And then it goes levels deeper, like other things that your eye perceives as worth high dollar, worth that premium price, are not just the items, but how it's positioned, how it's shot, the angles, the lighting, the quality of the photo. Like, you can tell when a picture or a video is really well produced, well made, and you go, oh, they've got a team, they've got a budget, they've got, like, they put thought into this. Not just like, maybe there's a coach and they have 10 photos of themselves on their website. Okay, they're probably doing better than some coaches who have no photos of themselves on their website, because people like people, they want to relate to people. So as a coach, how you show up is very crucial for selling your services, because you are selling you. But if you have 10 photos taken at 10 different times in 10 different types of settings or moods or styles of apparel, you have no consistency, and the eyes detect that. And they go, they didn't really take time for a photo shoot, or they didn't take time to strategize or plan, or I'm not picking up. Consistency also becomes perceived as worth value. Of course, you can be consistently bad.
True. Valid point. That's not what we're going for.
Doesn't help. But like, when you see someone's website for a coach and they have beautiful photos that aren't just there, but they were carefully crafted to tell the story that ties with the message that they're sharing, you perceive that instantly as, oh, they expertise, professionalism, they know what they're doing. And then I, like with my clients, will take it a notch farther into that brand positioning, and we will be super intentional about what they wear and how they pose, and tell the story that they want. Like, are they warm and approachable? Do we want to tell that story? Or are they kind of like aspirational and maybe even a little bit standoffish, because they're just like, I'm success. And and so going into that positioning and then creating perceptions. And they say that branding is either done by you intentionally, or it's being done to you anyway. People are perceiving you. So either you create that and drive the perception that you want, those emotions, those responses, or you don't do any of it because you feel like you're not ready, or you don't know enough yet, or you just don't want to bother with that. And people are still forming perceptions of you, and those begin to be what you're known for, but they may not be the story you wanted to communicate to your audience.
It takes a level of intentionality, right? From what I'm hearing you say, of like, how do I want to show up today? And what, even down to like what you wear. Is it on brand or is it off brand? I think it's like, can we have an off day or can we have a day where we don't show up on? And what I mean by that is like, I'm an eyelash girl. I love that. I love like certain colors for my brand. And some of my most popular videos have been videos where like, I haven't been wearing any makeup and I've looked like a mess. And I don't do those a lot. Those are rare, but those tend to get the most, maybe they just get the most views because people are like, what's going on there? So I think I know the answer to this question, but I just want to hear your take on like authenticity and being able to show up just kind of like being ourselves, even if it's not totally on brand versus no, if we're going to be luxury brand, like we really need to be curated all the time.
I think that authenticity is part of your brand, and that's why it works. So for example, I had a client that would always show up to her. She was a coach. She liked being comfy. She would always show up to her Zoom calls and such in like hoodies. And she was coaching professionals, a lot of like men in their 40s in business and showing up like this. And so for her, that was a problem for her perception because nothing about that experience came across as professional. But that was all the time. And she also acknowledged like she had not put any intention into how she dressed. She didn't feel confident in that. She didn't know how to choose, which is one of the things that I help with. But now she has like 90% of her videos, she shows up looking really crisp and professional. And then 10%, she shows up out in the woods, windblown hair, like being herself out on a nature walk. And it works because she's put the intention in that like, this is, I care about my clients enough to show up. But then also the authenticity can come through and that works. Like it's not,
we can mix a little bit is what I'm hearing you say, which is reassuring, which is very reassuring. Go ahead.
Or you say my entire brand is comfy authenticity, being myself, wet shower hair. And like, why? It can be that, but why? If you've got a really good why, then we will be able to dig that out and craft something from that. But it's just that intentionality. And so like when it comes to branding for high dollar sales, I like to break it down into kind of 3 main parts. And actually brand positioning is the middle one, but I'm wild. I like to jump in the middle, start there.
I love it. No, this is exciting though. I'm curious to hear what these are.
So the first one, actually, let's back up one step and say, why should your listeners even care? They've hung on this long because we promised them that it would be more than just brain tumors, but
more than brain tumors. That'll be the title of this episode.
Branding, not just brain tumors.
Yeah, right.
Wow. But branding for high dollar sales, when I say that, that's just one way to say it. You can say for high ticket, you can say for luxury, you can say for premium, but it is if you want to attract luxury clients, or maybe you just want to drive higher margins in your business. It is if you want to be as delightfully expensive as you know in your gut you deserve to be. It is so that at the very least you can stop undercharging and earn what you're worth. And it is to help you appeal to the high end of the market that you are in. So I would preface it by saying that premium and luxury are relative also.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's all, that is a really good point, right? It's all relative. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what we're going to talk about, help them with today. But the 3 parts in my mind to branding for high dollar sales are: first, you have to know your value, because you cannot create a brand around something that you're not even sure why you're worth it. You have to deep dive and be confident that you are first. And then step 2 is do something about it, show your value. And I don't know if you remember in our last episode, one of the things that I mentioned was like one of the lessons learned from the tumor was this idea that what you believe matters, but what you do about what you believe matters even more.
Yeah.
That is also branding, because once you know your value and you believe you're worth it, that's great. That's step 1. But if you don't do anything about that belief, if you don't take the time to create your brand, to do your website, maybe to hire some help if you're not A+ grade at that, which most people aren't.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I didn't even used to be great at doing my own brand. It is hard. It's much easier to get help. But until you do something about that value that you know you have to make it so that other people can see it, it doesn't bring you anything except maybe frustration because you know you're worth it, but nobody else does yet.
Yeah.
So, and that might, I'm sure that there's more going on under the scenes of knowing your worth, like build your confidence begins to build. And you teach a lot of really great stuff about how just standing in that and believing that starts to attract that. And that's totally true. And I think though that brand positioning and showing your value just starts to happen next. Like you begin to manifest ways to do that because you're ready for that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I want to just pause on that, because I think that like having that as the foundation is also, I mean, it's like, that's part of authenticity. Because if you're trying to brand that you're luxury and high value, but you don't feel that way inside, you don't feel like you're worth it, that's completely inauthentic, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
going to come through, and it's not making the person wrong, but it's just saying like, you got to build from that strong, solid foundation. And it's part of it, I think, is a decision that you're worth it and that what you have to offer is worthy. And if we're waiting, one of the things I see a lot, like I did in my own life for so long, and then I know other listeners may find them, some of our listeners may find themselves doing too, is like waiting for validation from somebody else that they're worth it or that they're good enough and they can start charging more or decide that they're a luxury brand. And if we wait for that validation, we're going to be waiting a long time, right? So we got to make that decision within ourselves, get firm on that foundation, and then present ourselves that way to the world. So I just want to take a moment and say that's very much in alignment with what we teach here. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you have to know that you're worth it. Otherwise, you might try to show your value. You'll create this brand and then it'll fall apart because either your confidence isn't there, or maybe you're offering a product that you know in your heart is not your best and it's not that great. But if you try to brand it as great and create this smoke and mirrors, again, it will fall apart because branding doesn't stop when someone sees your website. It doesn't stop when someone buys your service. It continues on through how you deliver it and the experience, like part of that experience, it's building those emotions, those connections that they will have with your brand the next time they think of you. So maybe you manage to visually brand yourself. Maybe you hire someone and they make you look really great, but you know actually that you're not putting your best value forward. You're not really showing up. And then that will trickle through to the experience. And then they will never come back. Word will spread. And you will go from like looking like luxury to having all these ratings about you that say, don't do it. It's not worth it.
Right.
So step 3 in branding for high dollar sales is always find a way to add more value, which is like, to me, once you've known your value, and I ask my clients a lot of questions when we're diving into that, and we figure out their X factor, who their ideal client is, identify the problem that they solve for that client better than anyone else. Like that's a really good question to ask yourself. what do I do better than anyone else for my ideal client?
Mm.
That's a really good why they would want to pay more for you. And when you start talking about problems instead of just products or services, now you're talking.
Mm.
Now you have something unique that you can brand, because people buy solutions to problems.
Right.
That's
Right.
what they're really looking for, more than a product or service. They're looking for a solution to something in their life that's pressing on them.
That's such a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Tell us, and you may be about to go into this, but I'd love to hear from you, because I think this is one of the key difference makers, is like that focus on those continued value added, like high value luxury feeling touch points that are consistent with your brand after somebody becomes a customer. What are some of the things we like, maybe even if there's like little things we can
Yeah.
do that create that experience?
Yeah. So what you're saying, Elise, is stop talking in high arching concepts, Johanna, and get down to the nitty gritty of something they can do
I love
today.
it all, but I'm like, I
Yes.
love this stuff. I absolutely love this. So I'm always looking for like, what's something else that we could do that's different or better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super
So
excited.
absolutely. When it comes to, your value, you've shown it, you've done brand positioning, your website is starting to look like you're worth what you're charging, or it's starting to look so great that you're able to double your prices. Now you're getting somewhere. So then it comes to always finding a way to add more value, which is for two reasons. One is to turn those customers into raving fans that come back again and again. And two, it's for your own sake, so that you continue to build your confidence and feel great about, I am delivering this, like I am doing this. So some of the fun things, I'll use a couple examples of what I do, and then let's pull some examples from like Jimmy Choo or like Louis Vuitton,
Love
or
it.
experiences where you go into their store and you get some of this that feels like luxury. So for my business, I like to pay a lot of attention to client gifts. If I'm working with a woman and we're doing her personal brand, I will often send a statement piece of jewelry to her to prep for her photo shoot. So she has this really unique, cool piece. And then I will make sure there's a bottle of wine at our sessions or at the shoot that matches her brand colors. And I will, if she's single on Valentine's Day, I'll send her flowers.
Oh,
and like just little, I'm thinking of you. You're not just a number type of touches. I don't, this is probably going to be frowned upon in the like scaling community, but I don't do automated emails to my clients.
I love that. Yeah.
Every single one, every single one is personal, because I've joined these expensive like coaching communities where I'm getting so many auto emails and texts that aren't even accurate to where I'm supposed to be in the program. It's really confusing. That's part of the experience, and it throws me for a loop. I'm like,
wow. Yeah.
I just paid $20K to be here today, and you are sending me a text telling me the event's actually next week, but I know it's today. This is so confusing.
Wow.
So add good experiential touches. Watch out for negative ones that can happen from simply following a lot of advice on how to scale your business quickly and automate.
Gosh, that's such a good point. That's such a good point. It's like, we've all had that experience where it's like, you just texted me and you like did the wrong name or whatever. And there's, I guess, kind of that, it's just like that key strategic decision you've got to make as the business owner is like, or, if you're a salesperson listening and you're selling high dollar, it's like, what are your values? What are your priorities? But I think that's a really great point. And I'm glad you bring that up, because if you're selling high ticket, little mistakes like that.
Yeah.
Well, if you're selling for anybody, it's not great, but especially when someone's just invested, to your point, like $20,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really, you can be on the lookout that you're not taking away from the experience, in addition to finding more ways to add to it. And then when it comes to adding more value, since I've identified some of my X factors and ways that clients really love things that I do that are unique, as I'm going through the project, I'll look for ways to add more of those in. For example, when it comes to their business brand, I am really good at expanding their vision about what's possible, creating like imagery and mock-ups of their brand in the real world, showing them how it could show up.
Wow.
That takes extra time, and you don't need to do that to deliver a good brand. But when they see that, they light up and they go, I am that person.
Oh, yeah.
I totally am this. Or like, after their website is done, I'll create some maybe mock-ups that they can use on their social media to say, look, our new brand has launched. Or I'll do a press release for them that they can send out to their clients, and I'll write it as if I'm them. And 4 out of 5 times they cry when they read it the first time, because a lot of times people aren't as complimentary about themselves as other people would be about them.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
if they wrote it, it would be good, but it would be more factual, and it would just be kind of like, here are the facts. I go into their character, why they did this, what they did, and they kind of get a recap of why they started this whole project to begin with. And this excitement builds and they get to share it. So I always look for little ways to do things that I haven't promised to do. And I also want to make sure that they're getting a lot of like my time. So that kind of exclusivity is a very luxurious touch.
Yeah.
So I don't need a ton of clients, and I do that on purpose so that I can really give a lot of focus and attention, because in today's world, there's so many things that are DIY, or even like programs that you learn along, and they're wonderful and you can still learn so much, but there's less and less experiences where you just get like your own concierge stylist type of premium, like it's all about you. So those kind of things, like when I take my clients shopping and we go in Burberry and they bring out a tray of champagne, they're creating an experience.
Yes.
And
yeah.
and they take your coats probably so that you'll put on theirs. But
very intentional. But it feels good.
Or you go in Louis Vuitton and you get assigned a like personal shopper right away. Again, some of that is for their own security, but also you feel great that you're on this person's iPad and they've got a few facts about you, and they're like walking you around the store to show you anything you want, tell you anything you want, bring you drinks, bring you snacks. Like it's about being in the moment. They're creating moments.
Yeah.
So what can you do in your businesses, no matter what you sell, to create moments for your clients?
Wow.
Whether it's a text message on a Saturday that just says like, hey, I saw this and was thinking of you and you were on my heart. Or like, just get personal again. Everything is so automated. And I think that's where I found a really good way to stand out, is like, nope, you're going to just be working with me. You might not get your response email in 10 seconds, but you will get it. It will be intentional. And I'll do everything I can to do this and go above and beyond. And then I feel great. Like I feel great charging my prices, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that I'm over delivering every time. And so that confidence doesn't go away.
Yeah. Gosh, that's so good. And I love just kind of wrapping on that. Like, I love that it doesn't, if you're starting off, or if you don't have that budget yet for like high-end gifts to your clients, like you can still send the text, send something, do something that's intentional. It's really about making people feel seen and valued in, especially today's world. And there's so many ways to do that. So yeah, that is, I have so many ideas. My brain is just like spinning with all these things I want to implement for our company and our brand. Thank you so much, like so much for your wisdom and for coming back. And I literally feel like this flu. I'm like, oh my gosh, how are we? I'm going to have to find a way to get you back for a third.
Let's do it.
I love it, Jo. Okay. So please tell everybody if they want to go connect with you and, just find out more about you, working with you, where is the best place for everyone to go?
Yeah, so they can find me on my website, which is designbyjoestudio.com, and they can shoot a contact form request. It just says request a consult, but they can chat with me, say anything they like. Also can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Both of those are at Design by Joe Studio. And if they are looking at their brand and they're saying, I don't know where to start. Like, I think I need branding, but I don't know where to get the most value out of that branding.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get ROI on branding. I thought it was just pretty. How do I actually turn it into a business tool? I offer something called a brand analysis.
Mm.
And that is like a deep dive into your business where we highlight your opportunities to stand out, places that you may be wasting money by trying but just looking like everyone else.
Yep.
Competitors who here's an opportunity where you could really pass them, or here's somebody super aspirational and how you could model something in your industry after something in this industry. So kind of like, here are your best branding opportunities. So they can request that as well. And yeah, I would love to help everybody be as delightfully expensive as they deserve to be.
I love that so much. I love that so much. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your wisdom and your heart and your soul. And not only do you have just a powerful personal story and a beautiful heart, but you're brilliant. And this has been so like, just so good. Like I said, I have so many ideas I want to implement. So thank you again, Joe. And gosh, to you, my listener, connect with Joe and take a screenshot. If you're listening to this, take a screenshot, tag both me and Joe on social and let us know, like, what is the number one thing you're going to start implementing? Because there were so many good little tips and little things in this episode that you can pull out right away to start implementing. So we want to hear from you and hear what the biggest takeaway was too. So, all right, my dear Joe, thank you so much for being here. You are incredible. I'm so grateful for you. And to you, my listener, thank you so much for listening today. I'm so grateful for you. And we will see you next week on the next episode of She Sells Radio. Bye for now.